Fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. 420 Easter, man. Fuck yeah. High as shit, man. Fucking Peter Cottontail. Fucking Peter Bong in Hell. Yeah, Peter Pottenhale. Peter Pottenhale. Yes, yes, yes. That was not something I wrote down. That was something I just thought of because I'm a fucking goddamn genius. And, no, I'm not really a genius, but I did think of Peter Pottenhale. That's the character that appears once every 177 and a half years, exactly 3 times the amount of Halley's Comets divided by 6 Aries Capricorn light years into space times the distance of Mars away from the astrological chart of the Pisces. And that's how often Easter falls on 420. And when that happens, Peter Pottenhale, what does he do? Peter Cottontail, hopping along the bunny trail, hippity hoppity, he is on its way. Here comes Peter Pottenhale, hopping down the fucking weed, smoking bongs and hitting joints and blunts. Yeah, man, fuck yeah. Dude, I can't be like, I don't have any problem with smoking weed. I definitely don't have any problem with the legalization of weed. I have no problem with marijuana. I would even go as far as to say that I'm a marijuana advocate. If weed wasn't legal, I don't think that I'd stand outside anywhere with a sign, but I might make a sign. If somebody was like, "Man, I'm going to go stand in front of the courthouse today because they're doing a thing about marijuana decriminalization," which just happened in Maryland, by the way. If you're listening to this and you're in Maryland, you can now have 10 grams of marijuana. And if you get caught with it, it is still illegal, but it's like on $100 fine or something like that. So for you little spoiled fucks out there, congratulations. Everybody my age got arrested and went to jail so you could have your freedoms. That's my... I used to say the same thing about the skateboard park in my hometown. You know, we were the ones that had to like skateboard in the worst skateboard spots there were and get kicked out of them because our cops had nothing better to do than to kick the kids out of the fucking parking lot. And because we got kicked out so many times, they built a beautiful skate park, and you children will never know what it's even like to skateboard on a curb because you have a beautiful skateboard park. But you'll never realize that you have us to thank. They don't put us in the history books like Rosa Parks. I'm just kidding. I know some of you out there that don't understand sarcasm or don't understand jokes in general. Jokes in general. That sounds like a comedy club. But some of you out there don't understand that I'm joking because you're either young, dumb, or both. Or, I don't know. God, I'm really assaulting the young today. I'm really becoming a bitter old man. I'm really assaulting the youth today on Wax's podcast. But, you know, just as we are entitled, just as we have this fake sense of entitlement that was brought to us by the people above us. I didn't mean to bring Rosa Parks or civil rights or anything into the issue of it. I didn't mean to relate that to us getting kicked out of fucking 7-Eleven parking lots so the kids nowadays could have skate parks. But there is a level of relation to all past all past fights to the marijuana thing going on now. Because as you can see, if you look back in history, with certain exceptions, but for the most part, especially here in America, it's going to go the liberal way, you know? There was a time when people thought it was crazy that women would be able to vote. And how crazy does it seem now that seemed crazy? There will be a time in the future where it seems crazy that marijuana was illegal. Probably. I don't fucking know. For all I know, everything could get overturned. And maybe in the future it'll be the opposite, you know? Maybe in the future alcohol will be illegal, marijuana will be legal. And, you know, maybe Filipinos will run everything and all other races will be enslaved. I don't know. Countdown to that. Forget the zombies. Forget the, whatever the fuck that thing was called that ruled in the Matrix, the computer wizard lab dragon, whatever, that used us as batteries. Forget that guy. It's the Filipinos. They're going to take over everything. They're going to enslave the whites, the blacks, the other Asians, the other Hispanics, since they're kind of Asian and Hispanic and at the same time. All Asians, Hispanics, native people of all different lands, black people. It doesn't matter. We're all going to be slaves to the the Filipinos is what I was going to say right there until I was rudely interrupted by an error that my computer made, an error that my computer has been repeatedly making that fucking infuriates me. I have a nice computer, and it recently started making an error that Pro Tools tends to make when you have a shitty computer. Maybe my computer's getting old and I need a new one, but for those of you out there that fuck with Pro Tools, you might know the error. And it's the error that makes you have to increase the buffer size, and that's why as I record this, the shit sounds weird because I just increased the buffer size. And as any of you computer experts out there would know, you can probably guess actually what happened before I started to get all these errors. I'm sure that you can fucking guess. Yes, that's right. I upgraded a bunch of shit. I tried to make my computer better and it made it worse, which happens every fucking time I do an update. This time I actually paid for it. I was going to upgrade my Pro Tools system, but in order to do that, I had to upgrade my Apple operating system to the newest version, which I did. I even paid $20 to do it. I'm on fucking Mountain Leopard Lion or whatever kind of the operating system that Apple is using now, whatever kind of fierce feline they named their system after, that's what I'm on, whatever the newest one is. And of course, that's when I started getting these errors and my computer started slowing down and working like shit. So right now I'm hearing latency on the microphone. You won't hear it when you listen to the podcast, but what I mean by latency is when I'm talking, I'm listening to myself in the headphones and I hear myself talk, and then a split second later I hear myself in the headphones. So it's very unnatural. And now it's even more weird because I'm really focusing on it since it is the topic of my current discussion. So I'm hearing it as a feedback loop in my head going over and over and over, just myself talking about the fact that I'm talking about myself. Now I'm talking about the fact that 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 I'm... Well, here I am, Wax's Podcast, episode 57. And, yeah, that's what's going on today. I've already gone through a few minutes of talking, and I don't really know what exactly I said. But I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to keep on going. It was a great weekend. I had Easter down in San Diego, hung out with my brother, his family. It's always wonderful to hang out with your family, especially when your family has children in it. There's nothing like children to remind us how beautiful the world is. As I said last week, they also remind me to wear a condom because having children is difficult. You never know when they may wake up. My brother's oldest kid, Max, who's ridiculously cute, as is his other kid, Manny. Everybody thinks their relatives are cute. I'm sure they're just averagely cute, but to me, since they're my nephews, they seem even cuter. But Max, who is about, what is he? He's a little bit over. He just turned 3 a few months ago, and he's gotten to that phase where he doesn't have to sleep in. He doesn't have to sleep in essentially a bed that's also a jail cell. You know, when you're really young, you have to sleep in a bed where you can't fall out of it. So they build a small jail cell around your bed, which in turn is called a crib or whatever. Internment crib. Yeah, so he doesn't have to sleep in that anymore. So being that he has freedom and is not encapsulated as he attempts to sleep, he can come and go as he chooses. He's not an idiot. He knows how to walk and he knows how to open a door with a doorknob. A 3-year-old can do that. He's not an animal. He is a small human being. He can speak well, and he goes right into my parents' room as he pleases and just jumps on the bed and sleeps there. So they don't get much sleep. Sometimes at night, one of them might start crying, the older one will just kind of run into their room and cry and maybe just say, or maybe not be crying, maybe just says he's sad or that he misses them or that maybe he'll even be happy. Regardless, he'll be awake when they want to be asleep. The youngest one will just scream for no apparent reason, and that's what kids do. I'm sure there is a reason deep in there, psychologically, psychiatrically, whichever one of those works, and in that way. But I don't know because I'm not schooled on these subjects. I wish that I was. Maybe I could evaluate myself properly. I have been doing a lot of self-evaluation recently, though. And what I've come to realize about myself, I think as I'm going through a strange period in my life, and I think this strange period might have to do with the fact that I don't have a girlfriend, a wife, or kids, and I spend a lot of time alone, and I spend a lot of time in my own head. I'm trying to get out of that. I'm trying to do things that combat that. I'm riding my bike and just living in the moment and looking around at the beach and all the beautiful scenery and listening to the things that are going on. And, metaphorically speaking, I'm trying to smell the roses, y'all. I'm trying to live life as it happens. I'm trying to live life in the present moment without just thinking so much about why are we on earth and why am I specifically on earth. And, just trying to live in the moment. And what I've realized is, this really doesn't have to do with what I was saying. I just went off on a tangent there. But let's say, for example, this is what I'm trying to say. I went to a party with my brother and his wife with a bunch of people that they know that I don't know. Since they've become parents, they have a lot of friends that are also parents that they might have met in like a parental type of situation. Especially because my brother's wife's a yoga teacher and she has a lot of students and coworkers that she meets, and some of them have kids. So they end up going to each other's birthday parties, and their kids play with these kids, and their kids, in turn, yada, yada, yada. They have friends that have parties, and I end up over there because I'm down there for the weekend. So I'm at this party on Sunday, which is 420 Easter, man. And this party was actually very 420 friendly. But let's see. This is my point. I'm sitting there with all these people I don't know. And I realize, especially at this point where my brother and his wife are actually over on the other side of the party with the kids, I start to realize that I've really become an observer. I feel like a lot of times, and this isn't the first time that this has happened, this is just a specific incident where this instantaneously occurred. I'm sitting there and there's all these people, and it doesn't help that they all know each other, except I'm the odd one out that doesn't know any of them. But this happens in situations where I do know people and situations where I'm at, and people comment and they tell me that I'm always observing things, and then like later after an incident happens, I'll discuss it with a friend. This is what I mean. What I mean by that is like there's a conversation going on around this fire. There's a fire outside of this Easter party. All these people are talking, and there's like 45 minutes worth of conversation, and I'm in the conversation, but I don't say a word. And what I mean by in it is in my head I'm in it. And I'm just thinking about these people's lives, and I'm thinking about what they're saying. And in my head, I'm going to other places in relation to what they're saying. They're talking about going to Mexico and going surfing and all these things. And, I'm just observing it. Just like last week, if you listened to the podcast last week, I was at IKEA, and I can't just be at IKEA. I have to think about what's behind IKEA. I have to think about why people go to IKEA, why the person who started IKEA would have started IKEA. What's his personality like? Does he still sit there and look at all the people that are walking through the store? You have to listen to what I was talking about last week to know what I mean by that. But I think that I've gotten so caught up in my own head that I don't participate anymore. I become an observer, and then a later on commenter. Like in the case of that, once we were going to leave and I got in the car and it's me, my brother, his wife, and their kids, I start talking about the conversation that I had just listened to. And I start making observations in the form of, comments being made to my brother and his wife by me in the car, just telling them about what I heard and what I thought about it. And, making different hypotheses about different people and where they might have gotten their ideas from and why they might be doing certain things. And I realized, why didn't I just participate in the conversation and maybe, get to know these people and let them get to know me? I didn't. And I think that I've become more an observer that comments later than somebody that participates in society, especially in social situations. Because like I said, I've been trying to participate in what's going on around me as far as what's happening in the moment. But most of the time, that's when I'm by myself and I'm just looking at shit. Just letting my senses do the observing or whatever. Maybe that's actually a negative thing for like when I get into social situations and I don't say anything. I just look at people and I listen to what they say, and I just think about like what they're talking about or what they're doing, rather. Because it's usually not in a situation where they're actually talking to me. It's usually where they're just doing shit, like talking to a person who works at a restaurant, or being at a restaurant with their friends and I'm at another table by myself and I'm just listening to their conversation, analyzing how they're living their life and why they would live it that way. And if there's good reason to live their life in the way that they're living it, and how does that compare to the way that I'm living my life? Things like that. That's kind of what I've become. I just more of a listener, observer, and talk about it later kind of guy. But yeah, I don't know fucking Christ, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But let's change gears here. Let's change gears a little bit. And speaking of my brother always leaves me fucking voicemails. And this was like last year. He left me a series of voicemails where he was Dave Grohl. He plays this. He does a lot. My brother does a lot of impressions. His latest one is he does a great impression of Talib Kweli. You'd have to hear it to know what I mean. He used to do Yellow Wolf. And a lot of these aren't like dead on, spot on impressions. They're kind of more like, personality recreations that go along with the impression. But he has this like way of being Dave Grohl that's kind of funny. And if he planned out what he was going to say, it'd be better. But he would leave me a voicemail. And then, he just has fun with it. Like when he takes his breaks on work, he'll call me and then he'll leave me a fucking voicemail. So I have some of them saved, and I think I'm going to play them for you right now. So I'll try to play them in chronological order. Here we go. My brother's voicemails that he left me as Dave Grohl.
Hey, Wax, this is Dave Grohl. What's up, man? I heard your music. It really fucking rocks, bro. Anyway, wanted to see if you want to come over to the studio I got in my garage and make some rock and roll. Maybe afterwards you could fuck my ass.
That was the first one he left me. And, of course, at the end of the voicemail, he has to add on a little thing about how Dave Grohl wants to participate in a homosexual activity involving me and him. So that kind of became the theme, and here's the next one I got.
Hey, what's up, Wax? It's Dave Grohl again, man. I'm just sitting here in my garage where I got my new band practicing. I'm playing bass in this one. You might remember I played drums in Nirvana and guitar and lead vocals in the Foo Fighters. Yeah, man. Anyway, I got this sweet new distortion pedal. I wanted you to come check it out. Maybe check out the tone, and then you could shove it in my asshole.
And then the voicemails continued on.
Hey, Rax, what's up, brother? It's Dave, man. Just want to let you know, man, I put those sweet new pickups you gave me on my Washburn, bro. It sounds totally awesome. I've just been rocking out the last couple hours with them, man. They really get a good low end. They're a lot better than the old humbuckers I used to have. Just checking up down here in the garage, man. Rocking out like I always have, man. Fuck the corporate bullshit. You know what it is. Want to see if you want to come over, jam out, maybe let me jerk you off. All right, man.
This is probably best to anybody out there who knows some guitar terminology. If you were used to work at Guitar Center, play guitar, be into guitars, read Guitar World magazine, or perhaps be a fan of legendary guitar players such as Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and Yngwie Malmsteen.
Oh, hey, man, what's up, Wax? It's Dave Grohl again, man. Yeah, just wanted to see what you're doing today, man. I'm on my way down to I'm going to go down to the Guitar Center on Sunset. Maybe, just kind of sit around, fuck around, and play some of the axes that they have down there. I'm shopping around for some kind of new vintage Telecaster that's going to sound real good on my new record. Recording in my garage, straight to tape, man. No computers at all. Straight to tape. Using the same soundboard that they used to do the Abbey Road album. Because I don't, the whole corporate game isn't for me, man. Fuck all that bull crap. Anyway, I want to see if you want to come over and jam later. Maybe tickle my ball sack.
You may think this is overkill, but he actually left me a few more messages. I'll just play you one more.
Hey, what's up, Wax? It's Dave, man. Just wanted to see what you're doing. See if you want to come over and jam. I got the new drum kit set up. Sounded really, really good. I put some blankets in the kick. Got some boom mics set up on either side. I'm getting some really cool sounds, man. Anyway, me and the Foos, we think we might use this kit on our new record. It's going to be put out only on cassette tape. We decided that that's the way that's what we used back in the days when music still sounded fucking good. Anyway, talk to me, man.
I'm sorry for the letdown. I didn't realize the last one did not have a homoerotic wish from Dave Grohl to Wax. That was Herbal T leaving his voicemails. He always leaves me mad voicemails. Another character he has, he does both Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, and they kind of are. It's almost like they were together and now they're apart, and they're competing for my affection in a sense. So just to let you know what me and Herbal T do, we leave each other dumb voicemails, and we are basically kids. And you know what? That's great, because it's good to live like a kid, It's like I was saying earlier. It's good to have the kids around to let you know what life's all about. And sometimes you just gotta fucking dick around, and just be a kid at heart and just live like a fucking toddler, What else do I gotta say this week? Not much. Feeling extremely sober. It is day 71. Day 71, I've not had a drop of alcohol. I haven't had one puff of a cigarette. And let me tell you what. Let me tell you something, person out there that's listening to these words. I was tempted this weekend. God damn, everybody drinking so casually and so carefree. Hey man, want a beer? Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I don't know. Should I? Should I exercise my free will? And if I want one, get one, and if I don't, not? Yeah, why not? It is the fucking weekend. It is Saturday night or Sunday or Easter or the weekend or whatever excuse I want to make, because it's my own choice. I have free will to make any decision I want. Sure, can you pass me a cigarette while you're at it? I'm just going to go outside and smoke this cigarette, drink this beer. I have free will as a human being, and I know that I'll only live one time, so I might as well do these things while you sit there and torture yourself and don't do these things. But you know what? It wasn't as bad as it used to be. It used to be a lot worse. I can comfortably be around people who are drinking now. Although I feel like especially people in San Diego that aren't used to seeing me not drinking, and anybody, if you do know me and you're listening, you know that I'm actually not just a person who drinks. I'm a person who, for many, many years, has been almost known as a very heavy drinker. That's almost a reputation I have, in a sense. So for some people, it's strange to see me not drinking. And it almost makes them uncomfortable, because as they open their beer, I can see that they're hesitating because they think that they're making me feel uncomfortable, and they're thinking in their head that they don't want to be rude by drinking in front of me. And at this point, I don't think, I think it'd be much more, I don't want to be some fucking self-centered prick, even though, in some ways I already am, but I don't want to be even more self-centered in saying something like, could you not drink around me? Or like, one thing that I will never fucking be, I don't care if you smoke or if you don't smoke. I don't care if you've done extensive research into secondhand smoking and figured out that it causes cancer just as much as firsthand smoking. I don't care. But those people, they're walking down the street outside on the sidewalk and they walk by somebody who's smoking a cigarette and they make it a point to go. It's like, really? That little, just you walking by me made you fucking cough up a lung? Get the fuck out of here. Get over yourself. That was always one of my pet peeves. That and the term pet peeve. Yeah, I never liked that, but I don't know. The sobriety's driving me crazy, man. I don't even know what I've talked about. I've besides the voicemails, I've almost talked for half an hour and I don't even know what I said. I don't know if this podcast is extremely eye-opening or extremely eye-shutting because it's so boring that you fall asleep. So we'll see. I'm just going a little crazy with the sobriety. It's really, really affecting me. It's affecting me in a lot of ways. I can't tell yet if it's positive or negative. I know that physically it's positive. The amount of energy, especially because I've been exercising, I've been riding my bike, the amount of energy I have is by far more than I've had in years. I don't ever hock up loogies in the morning. I don't be coughing like I used to when I would chain smoke all night as I drank myself to sleep. I don't do those things physically. As far as the way that my body works, it is definitely working like a well-oiled machine as far as the way my body works. But as far as the way that my brain works, maybe it's working like a well-oiled machine too, but that's the problem. Because the reason that I would drink, besides just that I liked the taste of alcohol, beer, and whatever drink I was drinking, was to slow my brain down. I think that I'm pretty intelligent, and I have a lot of thoughts. I think when you're intelligent, you think a lot. And the reason that I would drink in such excess is because I couldn't handle the amount of thoughts that would go through my brain. And what the alcohol would be very helpful in doing was slowing down my brain to the point where those thoughts would either be non-existent, extremely slow, or maybe just a little bit slurred to the point where I didn't pay attention to them as much. But now they're always there. No, but for real, now my thoughts are just like, my brain is always going. It probably doesn't help that I've replaced those addictions with like a double dose of coffee. I used to drink maybe 1 or 2 cups of coffee. Now I drink more like 3 or 4 cups of coffee every day. Even as we speak, my right foot is twitching. And I'm constantly thinking. It's making things difficult. I used to write most of my music while drinking, and I think, it didn't help, but it definitely helped definitely helped for certain things. Sometimes I like to write when it's early in the morning and I feel really fresh, so that's still there. But sometimes when it's late at night, having a couple of drinks would really help me just kind of relax. And now with all these thoughts, I'm really starting to think about where creativity comes from. And I feel like I've gotten more of like I don't know, man. I'm not going to go too much further with this, but you really have to be kind of clear and really focused on just what is being sent to you. Wherever these creative thoughts come from, they come, whether it's in your brain or it's an outward spiritual fucking place, whether that conduit from your from your, manifested thoughts to where those thoughts come from. Let me start that over again. The conduit to my brain that ends up being an idea musically or creatively or whatever. The conduit that goes all the way in the opposite direction to wherever that comes from. I think having thoughts circle around, they actually end up in the conduit, and they end up being kind of like clogged. It kind of clogs the conduit, creating a type of writer's block. Maybe not a writer's block, because there's so many thoughts that you could actually write down those thoughts, but I don't think it's quite as pure as if it kind of comes right down the conduit like laundry down a chute. So we'll see how that transpires. I know that it takes a long time to recover, as they say, if you're trying to get over an addiction. But, I actually kind of plan on going back to drinking after 100 days. So we'll see how I end up living my life. We'll see where things go. I do have a lot of good ideas in my brain. So we'll see how they manifest. This is a really weird podcast today. Let's do some questions and shout-outs. All right. I'm back. Shout-outs this week. Shout-outs to, before I start the shout-outs and questions, on the fucking strangest episode of Wax's podcast, as far as content and as far as the way I feel, this has probably been the strangest episode. I have to go back and really review all the other 56. God damn, that's a lot of episodes. Review all the other 56 to make sure that's true, but I think this is the strangest episode yet. Before I get to these podcast shout-outs and questions, let me just let you guys know. I'm right about, I think I'm at like exactly a month ago as far as the emails are. So if you've emailed me within the last month, I probably haven't read your email yet, because as I've said before, I go through the emails chronologically. So when I'm reading these emails on the podcast, I probably got them about a month ago. I know that's slackerish of me, but it actually works out so far, kinda. I don't fucking know. Shout-outs. Electric Mike, Frank from LA, Brandon from Connecticut, Tommy, a.k.a. Apariver. I don't know how to pronounce that. Apariver. Nathan C. Matt the accountant from B-More. David D. Joe the Butcher, who pointed out that you could get Herbal Tea's album beforehand. What I mean by that is Joe actually sent me an email. He sent it right on time. Right, the first day you could pre-order my brother's album, which was like 2 weeks before it came out, he pre-ordered it, and we both appreciate that, Joe. However, it turns out that if you get like the confirmation email for pre-ordering Herbal Tea's album, there's some kind of like view source code thing you could click on and just fucking download the album. So nice discovery of that hack, Joe, and thanks for bringing it to my attention. Of course, I didn't get the email till it would have been way too late, but I doubt as many people have the type of internet wizardry skills that you have, Joe. So you might have been one of the only people that could have figured that out. And I think because of that, especially considering you actually already paid for the album, you deserve to get it early. So thanks, Joe. Donna in Silver Spring, Maryland. Beautiful town. Many people in my family are from Silver Spring. Tom K. and Alge from the UK. Josh M. from Barrie, Ontario, in the lovely nation of Canada. By the way, the rest of the shout-outs. Moises R., Andrew, a.k.a. Crunk Hops, Phil from Cologne, and TJL, a.k.a. Eclectic the Zombie Killer. Let me just say, what the fuck is that? I'll be hearing weird noises, man. That sounds like a song. I'll be hearing weird noises. Like an old, like, early 90s hip-hop song from a group like the Grave Diggers or one of those fucking horrorcore rap groups. I be hearing weird noises. weird noises. What's that under the couch? What's that under the couch? Sure. Whatever I just said. This made me think Josh M. from Barrie, Ontario, which is in the lovely nation of Canada, which, by the way, the tour that I'm scheduled to be performing on, which I will be performing on this tour, the Vans Warped Tour this summer, all over North America, mostly the United States. 2 dates in Canada, Toronto and Montreal. And I have found some offices in Los Angeles, 2 different ones, one of the consulate and one of the visa application center. These are 2 offices that represent Canada that are in Los Angeles. And I will be going to both of these places tomorrow. The reason I'm going there is because I can't seem to ever get anybody on the phone that can tell me whether or not I'm allowed into Canada or whether we can make some type of exception or something. And my point being, I wish that maybe I should have waited till after tomorrow's visit to record this podcast so I could update you guys with what happened, because I'm sure by the time I record the next podcast, I'll forget to even mention it. Actually, that's not true, because I'll probably give a shout out to somebody from Canada, and the word Canada will make me think about it, and I will let you guys know. But stay tuned to my Twitter, because I think probably within the next few days I should be able to tell you whether or not I will be appearing at those 2 Warped Tour shows, the Canada shows. Part of me wants to just say, you know what, let's just see what happens when I get to the border. Part of me actually wants to just use my brother's passport because I know his shit is clean. He looks a lot like me. I could just give it to the guy and they'd say, come right on in, eh? But another part of me doesn't really want to commit international fraud or whatever crime that is that would land me in either a Canadian or American holding cell, which depending on which way I was going through the border. But then another part of me wants to just hide inside some type of music case, like a bass drum or or just in the general, like in a fucking duffel bag, and just act like and just be on the bus and hopefully they don't find me. You know, part of me wants to do that too, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get in trouble for 2 shows, you know. But I should know soon whether or not I will be in Canada for the Canadian dates of the Warped Tour. So stay tuned for that. All right. What up, Big Wax? Not much for me this week. Just asking for a shout out, and I've got a recommendation for you and the podcast listeners. Bo Burnham's comedy special, which is called What? Thanks in advance. Ellis L. That's a cool name. From Devon, UK. Well, shout out to you, Ellis. I have not seen that special What yet. I've actually had a few different people recommend that to me, but I'm just lazy and haven't gotten around to it. And I know who Bo Burnham is, and I feel like when I watch that, I should be like ready to watch it. Like I don't usually when I watch TV or I don't watch TV, but I watch Netflix, which is really the same thing. But usually when I watch it now, I watch it just like going to sleep. You know what I mean? So I think that if I watch the Bo Burnham joint, I should watch it when I have some, level of enthusiasm or energy or whatever you want to call it in my brain. Jesus Christ. Shit. Not thinking straight right now. This is from Chad, the Almost Architect. What up, Wax? I've heard you say a bunch of times that people sit in their cubicles at the jobs they hate and listen to your podcast. That probably is true, but I listen to your podcast at a job I love in a wide open office. I love it so much, in fact, that your podcast enhances my productivity and efficiency. So it's not all bad out there for your listeners' workplaces. Life is not so bad at all, he writes. Thanks for the consistency on the podcast. How about a shout out? See you next time you are in Atlanta. Well, thanks, Chad, the Almost Architect. Shout out to you. And Yeah, I wanted to read that because, not everybody hates their job. Some people even have office jobs that they love, This guy, he says he's almost an architect. That's kind of like an architect is like a standard thing people say when their dream job is not something that's like fucking painter, musician, professional tennis player, poker player or whatever. Some, like a more either artsy or sportsy job. Like some of the classic like office jobs that are people's dream job. I would put architect up there, and I'd put architect way the fuck up there as far as that goes. So congratulations to you, Chad, and I hope to see you in Atlanta soon. I can't remember off top if I have a Warped Tour show in the Atlanta area, but I would imagine I do. I know that there's a bunch in Florida, but I got to imagine Atlanta's a pretty big fucking city, so I got to imagine there's one at least close. So hopefully I'll see you there. If not, next time I'm down there, maybe playing at Vinyl, which is a club I like to play at down in Atlanta. We'll see what happens. This next one is from John J. from the UK. I only know that you're from the UK because you have a hotmail.co.uk email address. So I know you're probably old as well since you have a Hotmail address. Wait a second. Hold up. I just fucked that. How come it's that was just judging by the email address. It says John something at Hotmail in the UK. But then it says give a shout out to Sean from New Zealand. So I maybe you just have a weird email address. I don't know. This is Sean from New Zealand, or maybe you're trying to hide who you were. I don't know. Yeah, it's got to be a bullshit email address. It's Johnny. Get the fuck out of here, Mike. What the fuck are you talking about? Hey, Wax, long time listener, first time emailer. If you can't be fucked answering, could you please give a shout out? What does that mean? If you can't be fucked answering, could you please give a shout out to Sean from New Zealand? That would be sick. If you can't be fucked answering, could you please? I don't know, man. That must be some fucking New Zealand slang. If you can't be fucked answering. I've never heard some shit like that. And even now, as I'm trying to register what that could possibly mean, he's saying if I can't, whatever, man. I thought I'd start with some praise because I think no one is giving you any because they think everyone is. I love your music. You deserve to be as big as Eminem. I really admire you and just your general attitude towards life as seen in the podcast. That was probably the earlier podcast. Your music and podcast got me through a lot of hours at my shitty jobs, so thank you. I'm a fan of everything you do. Have everything you've ever done. Why isn't Chameleon on an album? 6 songs. Thanks, man. Glad you like that one. My friends think you're just average, but what the fuck do they know? Well, your friends may think I am average, and you know what I would say to your friends? We are all average. We are just average human beings trying to do what we do best in the best way we can do those things. And hopefully I am portraying that and have portrayed that properly. I think I've definitely done some pretty sick shit. Some of the things that I've done, I could look back and say, you know what? That right there was fucking incredible. And then other things I could look back at and say they were average. And your friends might have different opinions on different things, and I can't fault them for it. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. As far as me deserving to be as big as Eminem, I doubt that. I don't think people deserve to be things. Like the word deserve, why does Eminem himself even deserve to be big? What is it that makes him deserve it? Is it his hard work? Is it the bullshit he went through in life? Is it his talent and his music that he makes? That's what if anything, if you deserve to be big, like as a musician, I would say it would be based on the merit of your music itself. Because some people think they deserve something because of the hardships that they've encountered. Whereas I would say, no offense to Eminem whatsoever, he actually did suffer a lot of hardships, many more than I did. But, you know, there's people in this world that have suffered hardships beyond that. And, you know, I wonder if they deserve to be big too. And then what, if not, how come those people got fucked and didn't have any musical talent? Some of them had no talent whatsoever, and they just pretty much were born to be anally fucked, metaphorically. So I don't know why don't those people deserve to be big too? I don't know. The word deserve has always been interesting to me, and I sound like somebody shitting on my praise because, you know what? Maybe I am. But I appreciate it, Sean. I'm glad you like my shit, man. For real. Like, that's what makes me keep doing these things. People such as yourself that enjoy my music, and that's what keeps me going, man. Anyway, I'll get to the point. I'm a student living here in New Zealand, and I've been looking at doing a semester abroad, and University of California is on the list for my degree, which is mechatronics engineering. I have no fucking idea. MECHATRONICS is the word. Never fucking heard of that in my life. Apparently you can study it at the University of California. I wonder which. There's a lot of University of Californias. I'm guessing he means UCLA. But as far as mechatronics engineering, you know, you'd be much better off at I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck that is. Maybe that's another office job of somebody's dreams. You know, maybe mechatronics implies something else, that it's not an office. Maybe mechatronics is the study of outdoor only engineering, so it wouldn't be an office job. What do I know? I'd be coming around this time next year, so I was just wondering what LA/California is like in the late winter/spring. It's extremely nice. Is it still warm or what? Because I've narrowed it down to UC, Seattle, and a couple Canadian colleges, the latter of which will all be cold as fuck, and I like the warm. Other than the weather, would you even recommend coming to the U.S. on exchange for someone under 21? By the way, that's retarded as fuck. Drinking age is 18 virtually everywhere else. We all agree with that. I wouldn't really want to an underage drink because if I got caught, I'd be barred from America permanently, deported, and have to redo the semester back home. So the risk is pretty high. Plus, I can't go into bars and stuff, right? However, like most people, this is a really long one. However, that's what she said. However, like most people, I love smoking weed, and I know you have medical marijuana cards in Cali. This was a major plus for Seattle until I found out you had to be 21 in Colorado. Again, retarded as fuck. Seattle is not in Colorado. But I can't blame you. I wouldn't know. First of all, I couldn't name. Is Auckland a town? Is Auckland a province? Do you have provinces or states? I don't know anything about New Zealand geography, so how can I possibly fault you for thinking that Seattle was in Colorado? Or maybe you were just referring to those as two different places. I don't know. From research online, I found you may just have to be a resident, not a citizen, which I will be. But did you need anything else to get your card? Again, I don't really want to risk smoking illegally because of the reasons above. Other than just quizzing you about weather and local laws, would you recommend Cali/LA to someone as a student under 21? I really want to experience the whole college dorm room thing, but is LA/San Diego/San Fran the place to do it? Or which one? Or do you think I would be better going somewhere else? Fuck, this is long. So I'm sorry, but if you made it to here, just want to say again, man, love your music, love what you do. Don't ever stop making music because I'll keep buying it. All right. So let me go through here. The Los Angeles weather in the late winter and spring, that is actually kind of what it is right now. And let me tell you something. It's been beautiful every day. It's almost always beautiful here. It rarely rains. And, you know, there's a reason why people say that it's nice, because it fucking is. As a person who grew up in a place where we get all the seasons, we get harsh winters, hot summers, and then spring and fall are okay except for all the rain. It's nice to live here. As far as underage drinking, I don't know what to tell you about that. Yeah, there's risks involved, sure, but and I don't really know the deal with as far as the international risks that are involved, but everybody here underage drinks. Your college would be very heavily filled with people who are drinking underage. In California, it's the smoking weed thing is probably really not a big deal. People will just walk down the street and smoke weed here. Honestly, it's not a big deal at all. I wouldn't worry about that. And you can get a card. I've seen it done by people that were just visiting. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And yes, I would recommend it, man. Somebody that's under 21, like if you're just getting out of, I'm assuming you're kind of just getting out of high school and you're around the age of 18, and this would be the first time you're like away from your parents and living by yourself. I will say that that's quite a big jump, man. Maybe, you know, I can't predict. I think no matter where you went, whether it's the United States, Europe, Africa, South America, wherever you went on this planet, if it wasn't in New Zealand and close by to some people you knew, grew up with, or your family, there's possibility that you might go through something traumatic. I don't know. I can't predict that. But if you did have to go somewhere and you wanted to go somewhere far away, I definitely would recommend California. It's very interesting. The culture is crazy. I guess maybe it could be argued. I'm sure if you looked at the statistics, Los Angeles is definitely not the safest city in the world. You know, we here in America, it's kind of funny. I always think it's funny that people are scared to go to certain places. People are scared to go to other cities, and they think it's so dangerous. And apparently they haven't looked at the statistics of the city in which they live, Los Angeles, which is one of the more dangerous cities on earth. And what was the other thing you were going to say? Oh, you know what? If you have a New Zealand accent and you come to school here, you are guaranteed to do pretty well with the ladies, because American girls love the Australian and New Zealand accent. Really anything that's, you know, that's different. You know what I mean? As long as it's the only accent that they really wouldn't like here in California is maybe they wouldn't be attracted to, like, you know, if you were from Georgia or something, they might be a little weird about it. But some people would find it attractive. I would find it attractive if it was a girl who was from Georgia, but, you know, I can find just about anything attractive. But, dude, if you're a dude and you come here, American girls are very insulated. It's the way America is. I've told people, you know, when I went to Europe, I tried to explain this to people. Geographically speaking, not only is America fucking enormous, geographically and population-wise, but geographically, you can go so fucking far and you're still in the same country. People still speak the same language. People still kind of have the same cultural norms, even if you go into Canada. Just so big, and there's no way to drive to another place that's completely different, unless you go to Mexico, which people rarely do. And, you know, it's far away from most people. But what I'm trying to say is that these American girls, especially ones that are just getting into college, that are 18, 19 years old, you know, to them, if you have an accent, like whether it's British or especially like someone who, if you're, I mean, whatever, dude, if you have an accent, like, girls are going to fuck with you. So that's my comments on that. All right, this one is from Carlos Cornhole. What up, Big Wax? What it do, you filthy cocksucker? First time podcast emailer. I'll omit the knob slobbing, but I'm a big ass fan, man. Thanks, bro. I got a couple quick questions and recommendations for you. First off, Carlos, thanks for the email, man. Anybody else wants to email the podcast, it's beatsforwax@gmail.com. This dude, Carlos Cornhole, that's undoubtedly his real name. He has a list of 5 questions. Number 1, have you ever met other YouTube comics, Kyle Mooney, now on SNL, or Kasim G? And randomly, I have met both of those people. I met Kasim G a couple times. One time at a bar in downtown LA where I met a bunch of people when they first started Maker. There's a studio called Maker where Kasim G is a part of. When they first started that, I met some people that worked for there, and one of them was Kasim G. And Kyle Mooney was a part of Good Neighbor sketch comedy. And we have a bunch of mutual friends, and I've met him a few times. The dude Nick Rutherford is also part of Good Neighbor sketch comedy, and I'm friends with him. Not real good friends, but definitely. If I see him, he'll say, "What's up, Wax?" I'll say, "What's up, Nick?" We'll give each other a firm handshake and talk about what we've been up to. I know a lot of those guys from a few years ago through some mutual friends that used to put on a show called The Comedy Garage. So yes, I've met both of them because I am popular, famous, and a super giant Hollywood star. Number 2, do you put toilet paper down on public toilet seats? I do not. If I will usually wipe down the seat. What I will do in a public toilet seat, such as an airport or something like that, I will go into the stall, I will take out some toilet paper from the fucking roll, and then I will wipe the toilet seat and then sit down on it with no toilet paper. I think it's really uncomfortable and weird when I'm sitting on the paper. It's just like, I'd rather just be comfortable. I am not a germaphobe. Let's put it that way. I'm not a germaphobe at all. 3, do you ever get anxiety from smoking too much weed? Yes, I do. I used to not get that when I was younger, but now I do. And especially in certain situations, and especially with the wrong type of weed. There's like different types of weed that do different things to you. And every once in a while I smoke something, I'm just like, man, this is just making me feel really uncomfortable now. And all I really want to do is go home and lock my door and be by myself. And I'm not saying that because of the theme of this podcast. I'm saying that just out of honesty. And that especially happens when I eat too much weed. I don't know if you ever indulged in a brownie by yourself, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, a little bit anxious here. What am I talking about? Number 4, do you like comedian Mitch Hedberg? Yes. My guess is you've heard his stuff, but I recommend torrenting the Auto CD Strategic Grill locations to you and any podcast listeners who haven't. Of course I know Mitch Hedberg. Mitch Hedberg is great. I'd recommend that to anybody. One of my favorite stupid jokes ever was when he talked about the getting the receipt for the donut. I thought that was great. And number 5, do you like guitarist Pat Metheny? Check out the song And Then I Knew by the Pat Metheny Group. You dig it, man. Fucking wild ending, too. I had never heard that song, and I checked it out, and it was cool. Definitely a great guitar player. I mean, most guitar players, we've heard of Pat Metheny. I don't really, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you'll be offended by listening to what I'm about to say, but I kind of consider him to be a quote-unquote smooth jazz guitar player, and that's not really the kind of thing I like to listen to generally. But, I mean, I admire his talent, and I definitely think he has a very cool style of soloing at the very least. So, yeah, he's dope. Shout out to Herbal fucking Tea. Looking forward to Lo-Fi Blow Dry. The snippets sound dope. Well, thanks, Carlos. Now that album is out, and you can get it at lofiblowdry.com or just go to iTunes and search for Herbal Tea Lo-Fi Blow Dry. So, all right, where are we at? We got one more question, and this one is really, really long. So, what's going on here? I'm going to read it because I said I would. This is by Sean Q. Hey, Wax. Thanks for the shout out a few podcasts ago. It had me cracking up you talking about quitting drinking at the beginning. Bender/sober/bender/sober. I can relate. I decided to make April a booze-free month. I've been thinking about doing something like that for years. I decided to do it in April because there were no big events I'd want to have at least one drink for. Then, of course, shit pops up, so I guess I'll be starting sometime in the first week of April and going into May. Doesn't matter. I'll consider 2 weeks an accomplishment. Let me comment on that real quick. Whether it comes to quitting drinking or especially quitting smoking cigarettes, it's extremely hard to quit smoking if you look at it like, well, this is going on, so I can't quit at that time. This is going on, so I can't quit then. Because whether it's like I have finals, it's too stressful, or I'm on vacation, I don't want to stress myself out with thinking about quitting smoking, it's almost going to be impossible to find a part of your life where you go, oh, this is the perfect time to fucking torture myself. So he continues. Call me a lonely waste, but when I get home from work on Friday, the first thing I want to do is drink beer. I prefer to go out with friends, but it seems like that happens less and less these days. People having kids, moving, etc. Etc. Somebody's going to fault me for that. Also, the money factor. Spending mad cash on drink at the bar. My wife doesn't really party like we used to either, so she's rarely down for going out just to go out. I have no problem with just watching Netflix until 4 a.m. and getting pretty ripped on the weekends. Either do I, man. I hear you on that. If I feel like drinking and getting drunk, I'm going to do it, with or without company. There's something very relaxing to me about it, obviously. It's just getting a little too routine, and I want to change something up in my life. I kind of want to see if I get that clarity I also hear people talking about when they stop drinking, or if I feel dumber like you said you do. I also want to see if I stop feeling so bummed out after the weekends. Interesting. That was a paragraph. I'll comment on that. I'll comment as we go since this is relatively long. I think, I was going to say, I think when you said it's getting a little routine and I want to change something up in my life, I think that was a key sentence into why you should do it. You know, the reason why I'm doing all this crazy shit right now with the quitting smoking and the drinking and exercising and shit like that is just because, you know, I wanted to see what it's like to live a different way. You know, sometimes the only way to know is to try it. You know, EOM EOM is an inspirational dude in a lot of ways, and for him it's usually about the way he eats. Ever since I've known him, you know, if you talk to him 1 month, he's only eating fruit. If you talk to him the next month, he's paleo, and all he does is like just pound bacon and steak. You talk to him the next month, he's on some other diet, and like he has a lot of willpower when it comes to like doing these weird diets. And you know, I admire that, because if you ask him why he does it, he always says, you know, I just wanted to see what it's like. I wanted to see, you know, if it feels good, if how my body reacts to it, and you know, like you can't rely on other people's research to discover how something will affect you. And, you know, everybody's different. So, all right, he continues. My friend I was talking about earlier has fucked with non-alcoholic beer while he's doing these sober periods, just to squash the craving, which I will most certainly have for beer. I've been thinking about having iced tea or something like that, always ready to go when I want to grab a beer, but I've considered the NA beer route too. What's your opinion on that? It'll probably taste like ass, but honestly, I can't say one way or the other since I've never had an NA beer. And if I have, it was ages ago. Since most of that shit is 0.5% ABV, you think that still counts as booze? I feel like if I went that route, I'd have 1 or 2 and then stop. I guess the whole point of these sober periods is not to lose the beer itself, but the buzz/drunk factor. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that non-alcoholic beer, you know, if it's 0.5% alcohol, what does that mean? If you drink 12 of them, it's like drinking like the amount of alcohol that are in like one beer. And considering how long it took you to drink them, you know, you're not going to feel any effects off of it. I did the weekend I went camping with a bunch of friends. I was drinking non-alcoholic beer, and let me tell you, I had the St. Pauli Girl NA, and it was not that bad. You know, if you have some of that while your friends are drinking beer and you just kind of have it in your hand, you know, it tastes exactly like what it says it is. It tastes like beer with no alcohol, you know, and it's not that bad. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you not to drink it. I thought the shit was good. I mean, it's like it's a little replacement, especially if you're in a place where you want to sit there and enjoy a cold beverage. It's not bad. It's the only time I've ever had it. It was that weekend when we went camping. I drank a bunch of them. I was like fucking pounding those things. Also, you've got me seriously considering going to the Warped Tour in Camden this year. Last time I went to that clusterfuck was 2002, and I said, even then at 20 years old, I'm too old for this shit. So it's clear if that was 20, you're now 32. I hardly know any of the bands on the bill these days, but I know a few. I was thinking about trying to scam my way in, like you said. By trying to get a press pass or something. I do take photos for my job and as a hobby. And yeah, your photos are fucking dope, by the way. I haven't done a lot of live music though, so I don't know if I'd be able to convince anyone. I guess it's worth a shot. Anyway, fuck this long ass email. Keep the podcast coming. I don't find myself laughing out loud a ton these days, but I feel like I do at least once every time I listen to the podcast, so thanks for that. Hopefully there were some laughs in this episode. Jesus. Weird episode. Hey. Yeah, man. Hope to see you at the Camden Warped Tour. I feel you on the too old for this shit thing. I honestly had heard of like 2 or 3 of the bands that are playing, but I'm really excited about it, man. You know, I'm friends with all the people that are going, obviously. I've toured with a lot of the people before. We're all going to be in a bus. And I'm treating this shit like summer camp, yo. It's going to be fun. Yeah. So I guess that's the podcast for today. Thanks, everybody, for email. Thanks, everybody who emailed this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You know, follow me on blah, blah, blah. Friend me on blah, blah, blah. And email me at blah, blah, blah. Be safe out there.